Grant, I don't know if you know this, but every weekday, about 1 to 2 o'clock in the afternoon, we have the Central Indiana Scoreboard Show. We go over IU, Purdue, Pacers, Fever, Colts, IndyCar, anything that's Central Indiana, plus the high schools in Blackford, Delaware, Grant, Howard, Madison, Tipton, and Northern Hamilton counties. I should say high schools and colleges.
Yeah.
We go everything every day with Ball State, Taylor, Indiana Wesleyan, Anderson, IUK, every day 1 to 2 o'clock, and it's quite informative, if I don't mind saying myself.
I can't think of a newspaper or another media outlet, whether it's a podcast, even radio, that covers all that stuff to where you can hear it. And it only takes 10 minutes.
10 minutes.
It's only 10, 12 minutes.
10 minutes.
So it's a good thing.
Although
you can get a lot of listeners.
Every once in a while it gets up to 20.
Really?
Yes. So, even had one last week that was 30 minutes with a lot of Pacer stuff and a lot of info. We have a news and notes section that's very cool where we go over all the coaching hires, all that stuff. And this podcast is podcast number 256.3, the IU Report with Grant Shouse. Of course, IU, one of the main focuses of the Central Indiana Scoreboard Show. And as we learned today on the Weekend Report, IU had a series with Purdue in softball. IU baseball swept a series, and we're going to start there in just a moment.
You're listening to the Central Indiana Sports Report with your host, Greg Mengelt.
Grant, we start a place where we haven't yet on the IU Report, and that is on the Diamonds. We're going to talk a little softball. We're going to talk a little baseball, a little rivalry.
Yeah, the IU softball team this weekend, solid weekend for them. Went 2-1 against the rivals over in West Lafayette, Purdue. Let me pause.
No, it just probably sounded really loud to everybody. Go ahead.
Yeah, 2-1 against the rivals Purdue this weekend. Had a doubleheader with them. Looked pretty good. You know, that's a softball team, and we've talked about it here recently, that is doing really well. They've had a really solid year.
Brianna Copeland is one of the best players in the country.
Yeah.
She pitches and hits and is their best pitcher and their best hitter.
Yeah, they're looking pretty good here going into the final 2 weeks of the regular season. Baseball team this weekend, great weekend for them down in Abilene, Texas. Actually had a friend who was at the airport last Thursday flying out to New York that saw the IU baseball team going on a plane headed to Abilene, Texas to play Abilene Christian. Kind of weird to play them late in the year, a non-conference team like that.
Every team plays a non-conference schedule.
Yeah.
It's a non-conference series on a weekend, not in the conference, so that's the one
Makes sense, yeah.
And that's a good program.
And it was a good weekend for the Hoosiers. They swept them. They were down late in the game, 7th inning on Sunday, 5-3, came back to win it. Just a solid weekend for them, and that's what they need. That's a team that, you know, is like any other, you know, baseball team where they play good in spurts and they play bad. And I think we've seen them play. Yeah, they're very young, but I think we've seen them play more bad than good, maybe lately this year. And so for them to get a big weekend series sweep like that is
at
big
some
for the
point. It
program.
looked like they had turned the corner. They were going to be one of the best teams in the Big Ten, and then it didn't happen.
Yeah.
But again, all year I've been saying next year. They're all freshmen and sophomores, a couple of juniors. The problem with that is it's college sports these days, and you never know.
Exactly.
We hope that Devin Taylor, Jake Hanley, Corbin Dickerson, Cooper Malamazian, Will Moore, all freshmen and sophomores, are back next year, and there are a lot of others as well that are freshmen and sophomores. But you never know. If they do, that offense may score 20 runs a game next year.
Yeah, and Devin Taylor is the program's all-time home runs leader, which is very impressive considering they've had a guy by the name of Kyle Schwarber play on that team. They've had some really nice big leagues.
And he's leading them in hitting as well. La-di-da, 371.
It's impressive what he's done over his career. And he's a guy that always say he's going to get drafted. And he's going to get drafted this year, I think, and be a decently high draft. Now, he's not going in the first round. He's probably not going in the first 5-6 rounds, maybe not even the first 10. But he's going to get drafted, hopefully, to a good farm system, to a good team that can develop him and make him into a great player. Would not be surprised if in the next 3 or 4 years he's not playing in the big leagues.
Every one of these guys are going to be drafted.
Yeah,
Every one of those names I named is going to be drafted.
But I think Devin Taylor's going to be the first.
Yeah, Corbin Dickerson will probably be a very high pick next year, maybe even a top couple round pick next year, and for good reason. He is batting .343 with 18 home runs, which leads the team this year. 71 RBIs, which easily leads the team this year. He is slugging .691. That leads the team as well. Devin Taylor right there with him. Devin Taylor, though, has drawn 42 walks, and his on-base percentage is easily the best on the team at .487. So valuable in so many different ways.
Yeah.
And he's 11 for 15 in stolen bases. Even if they don't make the NCAA tournament, doesn't look like they're going to unless they go on a run in the Big Ten tournament. This team is fun to watch. You should get out and watch them or catch them on is it ESPN Plus has all of them now? I believe it.
ESPN Plus has a lot. Big Ten Plus has a lot. So just it depends. This weekend coming up is a big weekend for them.
This really
Purdue.
is. Yes, it is.
Purdue comes to town. I'll be there Saturday.
Purdue, for a change, has the better record among the two teams.
Which is hard to believe, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's the difference in pre-Big Ten schedule was night and day. Purdue's was, let's just say, not good. Indiana's was pretty tough.
They'll play Purdue 6 o'clock Friday night, so good Friday night baseball. It'd be a good community drawer, I think, because it's Purdue and the fact it's a night game.
And they're fun to watch.
Yeah, I mean, and
that's caught on.
And the community, and I think Indiana fans around are going to want to go and watch. I'll be there Saturday, like I said, 2 o'clock first pitch against Purdue, and then Sunday, 1 o'clock first pitch. They'll be having senior day. So
on Mother's Day.
Yeah, on Mother's Day. Yeah, so a good Mother's Day present. Get your mom a couple ticks.
Yeah,
go out to the ballpark and have a nice time.
I offered to take my mother to the Pacers game for Mother's Day, and she said no. And I said,
"What?"
I said the offer was enough of a Mother's Day gift, and since she didn't want it, that's all she gets.
Are you gonna? Are you gonna? You can get some flowers. You can get some flowers.
She houses me for nothing, Grant.
That is true.
I'm not gonna do it. I jest.
Flowers.
I jest. I should buy her everything she wants.
Needlers is got them $10 a pop.
There you go. She's worth at least $10. I'll say that. Well, to sport we talk about often, and that is Indiana and Indiana basketball, and they have a new assistant coach. Tell me about him.
Yeah, Rod Clark comes over from Tennessee. This is a guy that was a big part in getting top recruits to come to Tennessee, including 3 NBA draft picks. He recruited to play for the Volunteers, Kennedy Chandler, who was a second-round pick in 2022 for the Spurs. Julian Phillips, another second-round pick in 2023, who went to the Bulls, and the biggest one being Dalton Connect. He recruited to come and play at Tennessee. He was ultimately a first-round pick by the Lakers just this past year in 2024. So a big hire for Indiana, and we've seen them. They've now basically have a roster. They have a roster pretty much that's formed, and now they have a coaching
space
staff.
To add a couple more, though, right?
I think, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But this is a good get for Indiana. You now have Drew Adams on the staff. You have Rod Clark now from Tennessee. Kenny Johnson's back with the program. He was there with Tom Crean when Crean was at Indiana, 10 years ago, whatever. So good move by Coach DeVries. Rod Clark, just talk about him a little bit. For 2 years, he was an assistant coach from 2017 to 2019 at Sunrise Christian Academy in Kansas. He was an assistant for one season at the University of Illinois Chicago from 2019 to 2020. He was an assistant coach from 2020 to 2021 at Austin Peay. And then in 2021 to now 2025, he was an assistant at Tennessee. So who knows where he's going to go with the Hoosiers, but good get for Indiana if you want to get some good players to be recruited in to play for your program.
Tennessee has literally had its best seasons those last 4 years.
Exactly.
In program history.
Yeah, so they made a Final Four.
Span, right. Definitely their best 4-year span in program history.
Absolutely.
Passing the Allen Houston years.
And Rod Clark played a instrumental role in getting some of those players, like the guys we mentioned. But the name Dalton Knecht just pops out at you because he was a great player, and he is going to be a good NBA player. That's just very attractive if you're an Indiana fan, knowing that he's gotten these NBA guys that have gone on to be great players like Dalton Knecht and Julian Phillips and all them.
Oh, and right after, this just happens every week, right after we did an IU report, IU had another big one. Josh Harris, big. That's a big-time one. A little size, a little beef to go on that front line.
Yeah, that's big. He was a North Florida transfer, averaged 13 a game his freshman year at North Florida. He's got 3 years of eligibility remaining, which, of course, nowadays in college sports, we mentioned a moment ago with baseball, it doesn't mean anything. It could. Hopefully it is, and that's a big get for Indiana. I would say the biggest one they've gotten. Every recruit's been a big transfer in. He's joining the likes of Tucker DeVries.
Yeah, well, DeVries is the biggest, but
of course,
yeah.
Lamar Wilkerson.
Yeah. I think Reed Bailey is going to pay big dividends, as is the transfer from Florida. Can't remember his name.
Sam Alexis.
Yeah. He's going to play a big role on that team.
Yeah, and then you factor in Tate Connerway. It's the Sun Belt Player of the Year at Troy coming in.
Bunch of guys who can put it in the basket, that's for sure.
Hopefully, Josiah Miles, who is a North Florida commit, probably played an instrumental role in getting Josh Harris to jump ship and come to the Hoosiers. Jason Drake, Nick Dorn, Sam Alexis. That roster's come together pretty well. And you mentioned it, Reed Bailey. Again, I saw earlier, and I'd like to read this here, pretty much a trajectory, basically a depth chart of what things are going to look like this next year. A projected starting lineup has at the guard positions Tate Connerway, Lamar Wilkerson, and Josiah Miles, Tucker DeVries, of course, and Reed Bailey, your starting five. And then coming off the bench, a guy we also forgot to mention, Connor Enright from DePaul, Sam Alexis, Jason
Drake. The one guy
Drake.
with big school competitive past.
Yep. Jason Drake, Josh Harris, Nick Dorn. Of course, Trent Sisley, the true freshman coming out of high school. Luke Goody is still awaiting a waiver from the NCAA, and a good sign that people were reporting on last week is a player, and I can't remember where he was from, but a player who was requesting a medical waiver for another year, basically in the same situation as Luke Goody, was approved to come back. So that is a good sign.
Seems like he would be.
Yeah, it's a good sign. And also, don't know how, I wouldn't say accurate, but I don't know how this could happen because it feels like he's been here forever. Anthony Leal is trying to have an additional year of eligibility to come back and
there
join
are
the
a few
team.
that are taking kind of shots in the dark at it, like
Leal.
Peyton Sparks at Ball State as well,
Of course.
former Hoosier. So
Yeah.
but you would think that Goody would have
I think Goody will be on the team next year. I think he has a really good chance. The Leal, it may be a shot in the dark, but man, if they can get him back, that is so huge. To get an energy guy like him who gives everything he has every night, one of my favorite players to don the uniform. Would love to see him back. I don't think he'll be cleared. I don't think his waiver will be accepted, but just fun to think about if it is, how scary that team could be with him.
Grant, on the Central Indiana Scoreboard show one day last week, we gave all of IU's men's and women's opponents for this upcoming season in the Big Ten. Break it down for me.
Yeah, so this is – it doesn't say when they're going to be playing these teams. But
we don't know any dates, anything like that.
And we're not going to know
who they're playing.
And we're not going to know that till about August. So we know who they will be playing where. And if you paid attention last year, it's just pretty much the opposite of where they played these teams last season. For example, they played Oregon and Washington out west at Oregon and Washington. They're going to be playing Oregon and Washington at home this year. Also, home opponents include the Iowa Hawkeyes, the Nebraska Cornhuskers, the Northwestern Wildcats, the Oregon Ducks, the Penn State Nittany Lions, the Washington Huskies, the Wisconsin Badgers. They will be having home and away games with, of course, Purdue, Michigan State, and Minnesota. Purdue and Michigan State, of course, makes sense. A little bit of obviously the rivalry with Indiana and Purdue, and then a little bit of a rivalry with Indiana and Michigan State. But Minnesota is just a little strange there. Away opponents next year, strictly away teams they will be playing are the Illinois Fighting Illini, the Maryland Terrapins, the Michigan Wolverines, the Ohio State Buckeyes, the Rutgers Scarlet Knights, and they'll be headed to Hollywood to play the UCLA Bruins and the USC Trojans. So, I mean, you're going to play every team at least once, just a matter of where. We'll see. And also the women's have announced theirs as well. Their home opponents next season will be the Iowa Hawkeyes, the Michigan Wolverines, the Michigan State Spartans, the Minnesota Golden Gophers, the Northwestern Wildcats, the Penn State Nittany Lions, the Washington Huskies, and the Oregon Ducks. The Indiana women's team will be traveling to Illinois, Maryland, Nebraska, Ohio State, Rutgers, Wisconsin, and they'll also be going to Hollywood to take on UCLA and USC.
That's a tough schedule.
Yeah, and they will have a home and away series this year with, of course, Purdue. So,
and that's everything, pretty much.
Of course,
if
of
that's
course.
in play, that's the first one.
Of course, they're always going to do that. They're always going to schedule it around that.
There were a couple of years
the
Big Ten had Purdue and IU once back in the early 2000s or late 90s, and they should never do it.
Never.
Should never.
And they probably realized that then.
I think they do. I think they've realized it now. That's for sure. Grant, some Mike Woodson news.
Yeah, I think it's always, for me, it's always been fun to, I would say fun, maybe because of just how bad things can end with some coaches at Indiana. No matter the sport, I think even with football as well, but I've always liked to keep track of where these guys go after Indiana, what they do. Of course, Tom Allen, when he was fired at Indiana, not long after, signed a deal to be the defensive coordinator at Penn State. And I'm just tying this into what we're about to talk about, but I paid attention to Penn State last year. I watched Penn State. I rooted for Penn State because of him. He's now going to be the defensive coordinator at Clemson. Tom Crean, I always rooted for him at Georgia. Not Archie Miller. I don't care about Rhode Island. They could lose every game out there at Rhode Island, man. I'll be all right. But Mike Woodson is a top candidate, expected to be named the associate head coach of the Sacramento Kings, which is
interesting.
Good for him. That's where he belongs.
The team he played for the longest.
Yeah, he belongs in the NBA. He should have never left the NBA. He should have remained an NBA assistant coach. Maybe could have gotten a head coaching position when he was at Indiana, but
has some success coaching in the NBA.
Of course, and he was a longtime assistant for the Bucks, the Cavaliers, the Sixers, the Pistons. He had 2 stints as an assistant with the New York Knicks, the Clippers, and of course he was the head coach for the Knicks for 2 years, and then his longest stint as a head coach.
The last time they won a playoff game, by the way.
Yeah, for 6 years at the Atlanta Hawks. And he was a solid NBA coach. I kind of remember when he coached in the NBA. Indiana had these guys like him and Randy Whitman who were NBA coach. Keith Smart, who's been an NBA coach as well as an assistant. I can't remember if he was a head coach or not, but these guys know basketball. Mike Woodson, yeah, there were a lot of things we contradicted him on. There were a lot of things we didn't like that he did. But at the end of the day, the guy probably still knows more basketball than we do. And he can take that. Absolutely. And that guy can take his knowledge and put it to where it really should have been. It should not have been at Indiana. It should have been with an NBA franchise, whether it was as a coach or as an advisor or even in the front office. That's where he should have been.
Just hope he's never the head coach of the Pacers.
Oh, I hope not either.
Okay.
I don't
let's
think
just make that clear.
I don't think the people of Indiana would allow that to happen. They've seen what's happened.
We don't care how close he is to Quinn Buckner.
Yeah, don't care, man.
Don't do it.
Don't care, man. I want to see him succeed. I wanted him to succeed at Indiana. But it just wasn't working out. And you could tell in that third year, after Trace Jackson-Davis was gone and Jalen Hood-Schifino were gone, those are guys that were poised for the NBA. And I think that's why Indiana was good that year, is because they had an NBA coach with two NBA players on it. Let's say solid. Trace Jackson-Davis maybe. Jalen Hood-Schifino hasn't played hardly. But those are two.
A little this year at the end of the season.
Those are two NBA caliber players with a decent NBA coach that was able to make something happen with those two, and that's why they had success at Indiana together. And that was a good thing. He is really good at developing talent. He really is. But when it comes down, I think, to X's and O's, especially in the college game, there were some times where he shied away. And I don't think he really showed what his potential is as an NBA or as a college coach compared to what he's done in the NBA. And it was really sad to see that. So I hope he can have success with the Kings, being the associate head coach. Basically, for people who don't know what that is, you're confused. You're basically the assistant head coach.
Right.
So he's going to have a role, and
a big role.
I'll always root for him. I hope the Sacramento King, I hope it works out. If he lands that job, he's expected to sign a deal here. And, of course, if history tells us, as soon as I pull out of the driveway, I'll get the notification that he did.
That's right.
Of course. It always seems like that. So, but
About 10 seconds.
Of course. It's always. And I sent it to you. I was like, we missed it right there.
That's right.
But
both times.
Good for Mike, man. Rooting for him.
So there's a rumor that IU's strength and conditioning coach was going to be poached, and it looks like he's going to be back, and that's good news for the Hoosiers.
Yeah, we're talking about Indiana football strength and conditioning coach Derek Owings, a guy who followed Curt Cignetti from James Madison to Indiana, been with Cignetti a long time, and USC, like you said, was about to poach him. And honestly, I thought he was gone. I thought it was a done deal. He was headed to USC, but Indiana's showing its commitment to football by extending him, matching USC's offer, maybe even sprinkling in a little more money than what USC is going to have there. To keep Derek Owings, they signed a big pay raise, or they signed a new contract with a big pay raise, which is big. And Owings is really one of, if not the most crucial part to that coaching staff, and here's why. These guys have spring ball. They have spring practices in late March, all through the month of April. They have their spring game, and the spring game really is kind of the end of spring ball. And they'll still do stuff together as a team, but they're not going to be out on the practice field in pads. They're not going to be doing all that until fall camp starts in August. So in May, June, July, all they're doing, they're in the weight room with Derek Owings. He basically, he starts to become the face that those guys see every single day. It's not their skill coaches. It's not the head coach. It's not the offensive or defensive coordinator. It's the strength and conditioning coach. And just think about how tough it would be if he were to leave Indiana last week and go and sign a deal with USC. Then you're scrambling to figure something out on who's going to take over your strength and conditioning program, basically right in the middle of when you need to develop those things. So just crucial to keep him. Indiana also extended defensive coordinator Bryant Haynes this offseason, who was targeted by Penn State to be their defensive coordinator, to actually, funny enough, replace Tom Allen when he left. and they were able to keep him. So it shows that they want to pour the money into these these good assistant coaches to stick around with their program. That's just so big, and it shows the commitment to football. Because in years past, if Indiana kind of had a little bit of a fluke where they were good and a school wanted to come by and poach the offensive coordinator to come be the head coach, and Indiana just wasn't going to, float the money to keep that guy around. So it goes to show now that they're now taking it seriously, which is awesome. But just, I'm really glad they were able to keep Owings. Again, one of the most crucial parts of that coaching staff. And the reason I say that is, like I said, because he works with those guys every day. They're in the weight room every day. And Curt Cignetti is not there showing them like, okay, we need to do 15 reps of this. That's not his job. That's what this Derek Owings does. Now Cignetti's around and these other coaches are around, but it's all up to Derek Owings to get these guys faster, stronger, developed better when, the ball's kicked off in the air on August 30th. It all comes down to that. So just really glad they were able to keep him. And it was a really big weekend for IU football, and where they were able to get 2 commits coming in. They had a transfer from Cal Berkeley, Jonathan Brady, 5'10", 180-pound, 5th year. He only has 1 year of eligibility left. Over his career at Cal, 97 receptions, over 1,400 total yards of offense, 11 touchdowns. And then 2026 high school commit, Blake Smythe. He's from Franklin Community High School, 3-star defensive lineman. Recorded 96 tackles, 13 tackles for losses, and 5.5 sacks. His grandpa, Mark Smythe, played for Lee Corso at Indiana. Indiana's able to beat out Purdue, Wisconsin, Illinois, Louisville, and Michigan State.
Legacy won out on that one.
Of course, and Jonathan Brady is a good get, knowing he came from Cal, and Indiana's quarterback this year, Fernando Mendoza, also came from Cal Berkeley. They're familiar, so you got a familiar target. That's what was kind of great about last year when Curtis Rourke was there, is that one of the other wide receivers, Miles Cross, also came over from Ohio just like Rourke did. So there was already that connection, and already knew you could throw it to this guy, and you knew what he was going to be able to do. But really excited to see how those work out for those guys. I'm excited about both of them, and I think it's going to be a successful year coming.
Thanks so much to Grant for doing the Central Indiana Sports Report once again. Always appreciate his time. Always enjoy his talents and talking with him. And thank you so much for listening. Please spread the word about the Central Indiana Sports Report if you want to see us grow and thrive. Always appreciate it and appreciate you. Central Indiana Sports Report is a product of ITG Media, and I love Susie.